seconds or whatever for Instagram to catch up, and then I will hit Instagram and we'll go from there. Da, 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 da. Usually about the 18-second to 30-second mark is when it goes
Okay.
live. I didn't tell Rocco that,
Mhm.
and he's always like, "Oh man, you're getting better at that." And I'm like, "Well, I'm looking at the time. There we go. We're live now on Instagram." Um, so that's my secret. He probably just heard that, which is fine. Um, all right. So I'm going to share it on Facebook and LinkedIn and my personals. And if anybody else wants to share it too, please do so. We have some cool updates coming. We're actually going to be launching all of our podcasts, audio at least so far, on a bunch of different streaming platforms. We really set ourselves up the past couple of weeks and like getting ourselves prepared to like drop. I think it's like 26 or 27 episodes. Um, and we're going to just continue to do this. Hopefully, get some more guests and amplify the content and amplify the way it looks, including like cameras, things like that. Like you see Joe down here looking all fucking beautiful. Joe's actually been helping us out a lot on the back end too with creating videos and content, as well as Tucker. I was just telling Joe how much Tucker's just crushing it right now. You know, he's our new lead for um, operations and so many other things. Honestly, like he's just taken a huge role. He's taken a huge role here with us in a short amount of time, and he's really diving into it deeply. And we're super proud of him and grateful to have him on our team. So just like Joe here too, and we're gonna do more and more. And again, like I said, up our content, up what we're sharing, everything. So, and his hair, dude. He said the hair. Todd was like, the
My hair long,
hair,
bro.
dude. Yeah,
And
looking
my wife made me
fresh.
get the stash, man. Made me shave everything else and keep the stash. I never done that before, so
Bro, it looks good, man.
I don't
I
know,
was
man. I don't know if I like it or not, though. I don't
no,
know. I look like a ex-policeman or something now, you know?
you do look
Like an
like
authority
you
figure. I
might
don't
be
wanna
a
look like
cop.
that, man.
That is true. That is true. But that's okay because we also help out law enforcement on here with
Hey, that's
refit,
nice, man.
so it works. You're fitting the bill, if you will. Um, but yeah, so today we're gonna catch up. We're gonna talk. We had Todd on last week, actually, Todd Burkhart. That was awesome to have him on and hear his story. And actually, I know his story reached a shit ton of people and really made an impact on them. Yo, Ray, you know you're invited anytime you want to jump in, baby. If you want to come on in here and start talking some shit. Uh, Also, Todd said you look like Super Troopers, and Tanner said definitely thought he was a cop.
Hey,
Uh,
listen,
no,
man.
he's
Past life, maybe.
yeah, yeah. In an alternate universe, he's definitely a police
Right,
officer.
right, right.
But he is just a veteran who was in the army and was blown up and broke his back and the whole thing.
Yep.
Not just, I shouldn't just in the army, you know.
You know, it is what it is, man.
And today we're actually going to be talking a little bit about good. Come on, Ray. Jump in here, baby. We're gonna bring Ray in here too and see if we can make this a little bit of a crazy time. It's the same link. Let me see if I can send it to you, Ray. I'm gonna send you the link. I'll email it to you. Check your spam when you do, Ray, uh, so that you can get in and you can talk with us and hang out. That'd be awesome. Um, Boom. We're gonna copy this, share that, and you know what, dude? If Tanner wants to jump in here, we're gonna look so crazy on mobile, dude. Whatever. We're gonna have a good conversation. Hey, Tanner, I sent you boys like Mexico. That is what Tanner just said. The Super Troopers reference, of
Oh, yeah, yeah.
course. Love that. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about leadership today. We're gonna talk about what leadership means and you know, kind of the responses that the people that you are leading, um, what you would expect from them, if anything, and how you should be operating as one, or what your opinion is on how you should be operating as a leader. Because I have a different viewpoint on leadership that I don't know if it's fully followed by a lot of people, but I don't. I personally have a we'll get into it, but I want to hear
Mhm.
other people first. And so why don't we start with you? Joe, why don't
Yeah.
you go ahead, introduce yourself again, everybody? Let's do that first, and then
Okay.
we'll kind of dive into the conversation. We'll see if Ray jumps in here and see if Tanner jumps in here, and then we'll keep on rocking and rolling. What's up, Kraus? How you doing, baby?
Ray, I finally see some messages over there. Okay. So anyway, my name's Joe again, Joe Byers. I was in the Army from 2010 to 2013. I was stationed in Fairbanks, Alaska. I was injured in Afghanistan in 2011. So basically immediately after I got to my first unit in Alaska, we were getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan. On my birthday, we actually left April 22nd. And, I was there for about 6, 7 months. I didn't get to go on leave yet or anything like that. And, we went on patrol to drop some other guys off on leave. And during that movement, we were hit with an IED. It killed my platoon sergeant next to me. I broke my neck, a bunch of stuff. And then I was, eventually medevaced out and sent to Germany. And then from Germany, I was sent to, where would I go? Seattle for surgery. And then they finally sent me back up to Alaska. So, I pretty much have been through it all, especially, when you get back to your unit and you don't have the ability to do PT or anything like that. They didn't send me straight to the warrior transition unit. They sent me back to my unit, and they looked at me like, "What are you doing here? You're in a wheelchair with 5 casts on, and so we can't do anything with you." So
Right.
they just told me to go home essentially for the past, for like a month or so until I was finally transitioned into the warrior transition unit, which is ultimately where I spent the rest of my time, like while I was active duty. And
Damn.
then, after that, I got out, retired. I didn't want to stay, which I should have now. Looking back, I definitely, if I knew what I know now, I definitely would have stayed in a lot longer than I did because how easy things would have become,
Mm.
after I got injured. And so, hey Ray, I appreciate that, man. But looking back, I would have stayed in. But obviously, I chose a different path, and I don't think I'm doing too bad on this path either. So,
No, you're
you know,
not.
you know what I mean. So
Crushing it, dude.
yeah, yeah. So, I there's a lot of leadership skills that I didn't have when I first joined into the military, obviously, because I was only an 18-year-old kid, Um, so after being there and like witnessing other more immature people than myself, and having to try to find a way to get those people to listen to you, especially like on patrol or if
Mm.
you're on like a foot patrol or just, setting SOPs or something like that. Being a team leader, when you're an E2 is not very fun, because there's a lot of
Right.
people higher ranked than you. But, I did the best with it that I could. And I think my people respected me for it, and then I obviously got promoted and things like that. So my time in the military was short, but everything that I took from the military, uh, you know, definitely helped me throughout my life now. And vision and direction is probably like one of the main things that I think in leadership are super important because you need to have clarity of your purpose, like for the people that are following you. So you have to have standard operating procedures. They have to be able to know what they're required to do, so that way they can fulfill that and feel fulfilled in fulfilling that for you, or doing whatever it is that you want them to do. So basically like creating a strategic roadmap to allow them to succeed. So that way, they're not guessing like what you want them to do. So I think that's probably the most important thing for me.
Interesting. Okay. So it's really setting the vision and roadmaps.
Right, right.
Okay. So I'm gonna keep note of that. Ray, welcome, brother. So this is Ray Boughton. For those of you who don't know, he's been on a couple of times with us. We're going to keep on bringing him back anytime he wants. Ray has become a good friend of mine, a good friend of Refit. He's also a leader in Refit too, with different retreats, and we can contact him anytime to be a leader on a retreat. And he's definitely a huge asset for Project Refit, and just happy to have him here with us today. So, Ray, why don't you give a little bit of background on yourself, quick 2 minute, and then give us your definition of leadership, and then I'll give mine, and we can kind of discuss it.
So I'm going to preface this by saying that this is not like a podcast studio behind me. I'm actually sitting in a classroom at school.
Yeah, I figured you're at Columbia, dude. I saw.
So I got my stuff ready to go in case I get kicked out. So you might see me moving, and that's why. But anyways, my name's Ray Boughton. I did 5 years in the Marine Corps. I was a recon Marine. 1 combat deployment to Afghanistan. It was absolutely terrible. Got out in 2014. I spent, I don't know, like nine years ish doing construction project management. Got pretty high up in that role within the company that I was working with. COVID hit, things got weird. I went and did an ayahuasca retreat, and I was like, "What the fuck am I doing with my life? This is not my purpose. Like, I gotta get out of here." And that led me to school. Still don't know what I'm doing with it. But in terms of leadership, I mean, I have a rough idea what it says. It's hard for me to quantify and objectify it, but it changes so often depending on whatever station of life or situation that I'm in, and what's required in that situation. I know more of what's bad leadership. I witnessed it firsthand, and that I guess is a way of kind of wrapping your head around it. I don't want to start with the ADHD rambling, but yeah, that's it. So we'll dive into it. Anybody got any questions? We'll answer as we go.
I actually do have one to help you out with the rambling side. Let's give direction to it. You mentioned, what bad leadership is. I think that's just as valuable to hear as what you think good leadership is. So go ahead and hit us with what you think bad leadership is.
I mean, bad leadership is literally like telling people to do shit that you would never even fathom doing yourself. Throwing people under the bus for your own career, or trying to raise within some sort of organization, climb that ladder by stepping on everybody else. Bad leadership. I don't know. Everybody's got their own image of what that looks like, right? Like, and you can look at that in any environment, whether it's a workplace, whether it's a school, whether it's within the military, whether it's within law enforcement. Everybody knows that guy. Don't be that fucking guy.
Yeah. The one that doesn't listen, the one that shames people, puts people down, causes undue stress to others, abuses power, thinks they know everything, all that kind of shit.
Refuses to listen because of their position, right?
Yep.
So, like you got a fucking second lieutenant. He's like 3 weeks out of OCS, and he's telling an E8 like, "Oh, well, all due respect, Gunny, like, I think I know how to do this." It's like, this dude's been doing it for fucking 14 years. You should probably listen to him.
Right on. Yeah, that is definitely something that I can see could be entirely infuriating, especially in that kind of environment, because it's like, look, I understand your rank says one thing, but my experience says another, and I'm just here to help you, to help the guys, do better. And when the teamwork isn't there, or the not being humble enough to listen is critical. So yeah, I hear that loud and clear. All right, so
for all you nicotine fiends, direct from Sweden.
Oh, you got Zin directly from Sweden?
Yeah,
that's so it, baby. Better. I know. I actually like the cool blueberry. The cool blueberry.
I couldn't get any of this where I am, so I had to order it.
What's up, Wade?
Okay. Hey, Wade, what's up, buddy? Love you too, man. Thank you for setting up the retreat to Montana. We actually had a guy drop, and we have a slot open to Montana next week, which is very last minute, I know, but we do have a slot open. So if anybody's in Montana or close by and they want to come through, let us know. Or if you really need it, message us if you have Wednesday to Sunday next week open, if you'd like to come out. So my definition, I'm going to keep it really short. I think that my definition of leadership is really one where I try to set the vision. I agree with that. I try to set the vision, and then I try to sit back and let other people jump into how to execute that vision and build it together. And it's all about like, hey, who wants to move bricks with me? Because I don't think I know all the answers, and I never will, but I will provide, feedback. And that's why I really like to have like team and have people around me to talk to and bounce ideas off of, because I don't know everything. I don't know the proper, like for example, with Joe, a good example, when we talked, I said to you, like, dude, I don't know how to make the videos great, but I trust your creativity, and you kind of see where our brand is. And I think that the brand and the vision is very well set on the website, through conversation, through all of that. So, please tell me how to do it, and then do it. right? And it's been that way since. You know, in the environment that you guys are talking about in the military, I think that, you know, your one mission, the entire military's one mission is to, you know, to sum it up, is to take lives. That is literally it, right? To defend the freedom that we have here, and that is a very clear, direct vision. It's been set for years and years and years, and you guys have to operate within that, create SOPs, have people listen to you. I feel like the difference is for civilian life and building something from nothing, because everything's fake anyway. And you know, that's a recognition, Ray, hat tip to you. You know, we literally get to create what we want, but what that means too is what we're creating might not be the right way, so we have to work together in making it happen. So I really think more minds coming in to then allow the leader to go, okay, good idea here, good idea here. I like the direction you're going in, adjust here, and let's move forward from there. I think that's the role of a leader, especially in the civilian world. It's really being humble and open enough to get feedback from the team and then guide along the path of the vision that we've set. That's what I personally like. I don't like the idea of obedience. I don't think, I'm not a fucking dog. You're not a fucking dog. And there is no obedience that is brought into leadership and leadership conversation. I just don't. I think it's entirely off base and not appropriate. But that's my take on what I believe leadership is. Before we continue, and before I hear back from you guys on that, Ray, that T-shirt I was going to send you from Zero Fox, I actually, because you said to me, look, man, like I was recon, I know, like I got in like class maybe 0311, but I wasn't. I actually sent it and I gave it to another refit guy who was an 0311 pure, and yeah. So he just got that shirt yesterday, and he was like, dude, he said, yo, fuck you, I love you, thank you for sending that. So it was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, but anyway, based on the three things that we got what a bad leader is, and we agreed. I think, Joe, we agreed on the setting the vision. I didn't say roadmap,
Right.
but I think that is really an up for, like, what do you mean by roadmap when you said roadmap? And Ray, what do you think roadmap means too? But Joe, go ahead first, and then Ray hit.
No, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, giving clear direction as to what you expect from somebody, right? You can't be a leader and tell them 7 different ways to do something that all end in the goal being different, you know? So you have to set a clear path forward for everyone, you know, everyone across the board. So that way they know which way they're heading. They know where the end is. They know when they've reached the end, you know? So I think being able to do that is probably one of the most important things, because, you know, they can have respect for you and things like that, but if you're not giving them clear direction on what you expect from them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's always going to be some, you know, some, maybe they were whispering behind your back or saying something about your leadership style, or, you know,
That happens all the
say
time.
they're going to do it and then they'll try to take a shortcut to get to the end or whatever it is, you know. So if you set a clear goal as to what you expect from them and they do everything that you told them to do along the way, then they know that they did it the right way, and there will be no question in their mind as to, you know, am I going to get in trouble for this, or did I do this improperly, or, you know, something like that. So like, it's basically just a roadmap to how you want them to succeed and how you want them to, you know, just complete the goal, you know, essentially.
Yeah. What about you, Ray? You got something?
So when I hear the roadmap thing, I literally think of a map, right?
Right. Yeah.
As somebody who has unequivocally never taken a fucking straight path anywhere, I've meandered a lot.
Hell yeah.
Right. So like when you think of like land navigation and like how to use a map, right? Like you give yourself what's referred to as handrails, right? So you know, like this is, you know, my left limit, this is my right limit. So long as I'm staying between these 2 handrails on this path, I can zigzag whichever way. In terms of a roadmap, like that also can mean like, hey, here's your limits, right? Stay within these handrails. Any point in the middle here, that's free game. So long as you're right, depending on how you want to look at it, right? If you're in the military, you get what's called the MOS roadmap. So it's like, hey, by this rank, you should have this level of training. You should know these things proficiently. You should have, you know, these checks in the box. In a career pathway, that could be like an education, that could be certain certifications, yada yada yada. Same thing with with education, right? Like making it as simple as that. Like you have a degree pathway, right? So you have to take, X amount of classes within whatever to be able to be certified in this field, but they're not going to tell you which 11 classes to take. You, of those 11 things you have to fit, each one of those has 17 different options. That's on you.
Yeah.
Right. And that ties back to your methods of leadership of like, look, I'm not going to hold your hand. Right. I'm going to give you the leeway to fuck up. And that's how you're going to learn. Right. I never learned anything like, instantly. Most of the things I've learned in life came from failure. And I mean, it's a Rockefeller quote.
Hit it.
So like, whatever, but like a failure could either be a tombstone or a stepping stone. Which one are you going to make it? Right. And I'm paraphrasing that, but that's essentially what it is. Right. So giving people the leeway to fuck up and realizing that they are human, I think is a big part of leadership for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I actually, cool thing about Rockefeller, by the way, you shouldn't say or whatever about that guy at all, because I'll tell you why. I know he was ruthless and shit as a businessman, but he was incredibly kind to the people that worked for him. He actually set the standard for the modern workplace in the future of how much he took care of his people, and everyone that worked for him, almost everyone, loved him because Rockefeller looked out for people and was patient. Key thing for leadership as well, you just reminded me of it when you're saying all of that, is patience. Allow people to fuck up. Don't shame them. Don't come down on them too hard. Like, look, like, why'd you do this? What was it? What was the thinking behind it? Let's like work through this thing to improve. And what did we learn? And how can we pass this on to teach other people not to do this? Like, what is the thing you found? And in doing that, you're actually then developing a new leader through their actions. They're actually taking action. So be proud of that and uplift them for even trying. So I personally do love that quote from John D. Rockefeller, which is literally, I think you got it. Failure is a learning experience. You can either turn it into a tombstone or a stepping stone. That's exactly what it is. So just wanted to check that for you, and you nailed it. So I am all about that patience and about allowing people to come in and do things and fuck up. And, we've learned a lot at Refit. So for example, some of the retreat leaders went out, held a retreat. There was a lot of marijuana use that was happening, and we did allow that for a little while, and we're not going to allow that anymore because there wasn't enough actual healing that was happening in terms of the sober mind conversations that were going on. So tobacco is allowed, and like cigars, dip or nicotine, like Zins or Zones, whatever, but no alcohol, no marijuana. And if you have prescriptions that you need, not including marijuana, you're allowed to have it, of course. But that came from failures, learning to make it better and better and better. So, and we're not afraid to say that stuff out loud and let people know that, hey, we are growing, we're learning, we're making things better. We know we have something special here, and we're just going to keep going. That came from feedback from leadership. And I'm beyond, I've become more humbled, I think, also because I'm trying to practice what I preach, kind of thing. And I really feel like a leader also has to constantly be learning and humbling themselves. And I think that's another really cool. I think that's a cool thing about leadership, is that you get to grow and you get to, you have to truly be held accountable to yourself as well, not just to the people that you're serving and helping, which I think, again, leadership is about serving others, the people that you are helping, or the people that are underneath of you. And I'm putting up the air quotes because it's like, what does underneath even mean? Right. So it's just who's with me. And that's another thing. I believe it was John D. Rockefeller or Andrew Carnegie that said he doesn't like to work for people or have people work for him. He likes to work with people. And I think that's a really important distinction as well, which is why you see these guys who end up becoming these incredible, successes, because they're not shaming people. They're not shitting on people. Do they still have their left and their rights? By the way, I wanted to bring that back up, Ray. I learned that. I finally understood what that meant, because I've heard that so much from different military guys. And I actually, did not. I always ask questions about what does that mean. And then one day, Tanner and I were coming back from, I forget where. He and I went out to go scope something out together, and we were in an airport forever. You know what? We were in Washington. We're in Washington retreat. We're coming back from it. We're in the airport for, I think, like 18 hours or whatever, and we're just sitting down and fucking waiting. And we just started talking about it, and Tanner was like, dude, left and right. He's like, look, here's a visual. And we're sitting there on the ground in front of a Starbucks waiting for something to open up for us to go sit down. And he's like, you see that pole right there and that pole right there? He's like, if I tell you you can't go past that pole and you can't go past that pole, then everything in between here you're allowed to do. And it literally clicked for me in that moment. I was like, oh shit, I totally get it now. Like I understand what that means when you give people a left and a right. And on paper, what that looks like you mentioned, Ray, it could be like trainings that you do. How many retreats did you go on? How many people you've been talking to? How much time are you putting into Refit, for example? Just giving Refit examples. Like, are you dedicated to growing yourself, making yourself better? Are you trying to live a better life? Are you going to be somebody that we want to introduce someone to you to talk to them if they need a peer, if they need someone to talk to? Like, are you afraid of not having a certification just to talk to a human being, right? Because we don't want that. We want people who are willing to just talk to each other and get to know each other again, right? That's what we're trying to promote here at Refit, is have your voice back, and believe in your voice and believe in your talents. And that's really, at the end of the day, Tanner, leading me. He led me. He taught me, right? So that was fantastic. That was a great moment for me and a real eye opener. I think it's a great example of leadership as well for that roadmap. Like, the roadmap it's not necessarily exactly each step in the middle of it. You just give people like, look, just don't do this and don't do this. Your left and your right. Or it could be do this included in the middle here, but everything else, as long as you're not breaking the left and the right boundaries and you're using these tools, and maybe you find others to amplify and or replace and make better these tools, then go and get to this end. We need to get here. How we get there, go have fun. An example too, an actual physical example for story purposes. I remember I was talking to, I forget who it was, but I think it might have been actually Harrison, believe it or not. And he was telling me about like a field training exercise they were doing. And they had to get across like a ravine or get across a field, and they were behind. And if they didn't get there in time, like whatever. So they actually commandeered a like a tractor or like a 4x4 that they saw, threw all their shit in it, and then drove. And they got to the spot in time. And they didn't get in trouble because they got there. They didn't say they couldn't do that. So they did it. And they were able to get there in time. So I thought that was another good example of that, what the left and the right means. So I don't know. I love that definition of leadership. And I've had some pretty bad leaders in my time, like just in the working world, and people that I tried working with, and I've met bad leaders. And every single one of the people that I find to be a bad leader is a person that always thinks they're right. Always. That drives me nuts. I cannot stand that. Like, let's have an actual discussion about things instead of you just dictating to me all the time what you think is right. I just find that to be not only is it a waste of time, but you're not tapping into somebody's mind and really allowing them to shine. I mean, what do you guys think about what are some of the characteristics and traits you've seen in bad leaders? Joe, go ahead.
None. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, when I was
no personality, no talent, nothing.
So, like I said, when I first got to my unit in Fairbanks, man, everyone there had been deployed. Everyone there had, done all of these things already. And I'm the new guy coming in. Well, me and everybody else that came with me, I would probably say I was the most squared away one that came. I knew all of my things and did everything that I was supposed to do. But you see, when you're like that, bad leaders, what they do is they push their responsibilities off on the ones that know what they're doing. So, for example, I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to shame anybody or, let them know that I'm still thinking about them. But
good.
So, as soon as we got there was this guy, he just didn't get it, man. He's kind of like you in the fact that, like, this is probably his first big life experience. I'm not saying that this is you, but I'm saying like just an example of like how much you know about the military and you're still learning things and stuff like that. So, he didn't know much, he didn't, I don't know if he just didn't grasp it or like what was happening, but what I'm trying to get to is that I was eventually put in charge of him. And if he was messed up, then I was messed up, kind of thing. So it became my responsibility to try to help this guy, even though we're the same, you know what I'm saying? So my team leader at the time pushed his responsibility that was pushed on him onto me the same level, so that way it would make his load easier. Or I don't know if he just didn't want to teach him, or if he thought he was unteachable. But in the end, he just became a driver, and that's kind of where he stayed the entirety of his time there. But I think that's a pretty good example of, if I was a leader, I wouldn't have done that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have sat the guy down, like, hey, what is the problem? What's going on? Do you not understand things? Do you need to be retaught? Like, what is the issues, so that I can help you, so that way next time when I ask you to put your belt on the right way, or if you don't wear one summer boot and one winter boot, obviously, but somehow it happened, like, what happened in that moment and what were you thinking, so that way I can kind of help him and like empower him and like make him grow as a person, because you're still a human being when you're in the military, whether they treat you like one or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen a lot of people that came with me didn't have like the same mindset as I did. They thought they were going to do things their way and things like that. They weren't ready to give up, their, I guess, freedoms of, how they used to do things before they joined like a team effort. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, it's like a hive mind kind of deal when you're in the barracks with everybody, and you have people telling you what to do constantly, and you're all doing it for the greater good, apparently, supposedly. And so I think that taking accountability for his actions back then, would definitely make him a better leader now if he learned anything. But just, you have to lead in order for change. You know what I'm saying? So if your team is crap, it's crap from the top down. It doesn't start at the bottom and go up. So I think that it comes a lot from the top. And if you don't have, if you're not a good leader, you're not a good leader, and you're just in the position just to be in the position, and you can't offer your team anything to help them succeed better than they're doing. And so I think there was a lot of that in my unit and in the military at the time when I was in. And so, that obviously was aired out immediately as soon as I got there, because I'm a pretty smart guy. I can figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so, that's why I rose in the ranks as fast as I did. I'm not saying I made it all the way to the top, because I was only in for, a year and a half before I got blown up. But, I figured it out pretty quick. And I think that's one of the most important things, is like leading through change and like taking accountability and ownership of the things that you do as a leader. And, you allow your subordinate to grow with you and experience things with them. So that way you guys are eventually on the same level, even though your titles aren't the same. You guys fully understand everything that's going on between each other. And you basically become one mind, because they know how you think, how they think. And that's how close I think your team should be, especially, when you're in a combat situation or overseas, or, watching each other's backs and things like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like the accountability piece. I would love to dive into that. But Ray, go ahead.
I got nothing. That was pretty good.
Right? I feel like I feel like it was really good because of the accountability piece. That's like, that's critical. That's everything. If you notice that your team or whatever it is, like I'll give a personal example. I knew that I know even still I have to be better so everybody else can be better. Number one thing that I'm trying to fix here at Refit is communication and planning things out better. And I tried finding someone who could help me out with that, because I'm a poor planner. I'm not very good at the planning shit. Let's go, Tanner.
Can you
Gang,
guys hear me?
gang, baby. What's up, dude? Welcome.
What up? What up?
What's up?
What's up, baby? So I knew that I knew I needed help. You know what I mean? Like I've known it for a long time. And then Tucker comes in and I'm like, bro, here's the issues. Here's the problems. Here's a 50-page, like, literal document that I wrote on Refit. Please read through it. He read through the whole fucking thing. He understands the mission. He understands like where we're trying to go, the philosophies, all of it. Right. And then he came up with some like really good structures by which we're going to be operating with different. He broke down the United States into regions. So now we're going to have regions of the United States. A Project Refit's going to have Facebook groups for them to talk and communicate and share. We're going to have even eventually get to the point where we have retreats that are happening in regions, so we can amplify how many people we bring out on these healing retreats. And a part of that, the number one thing that I really wanted was, hey, the one thing I really want is a retreat leader retreat where like Ray, me, Tanner, Dan, Mo, TJ, so many other guys that are like original retreat leaders can jump in to those retreat leader retreats, and we get to teach people how we operate and what we're talking when we talk about getting the truth telling. How do you actually have that happen? How do you make that happen and bring that to the forefront of someone's mind and create an environment where they feel comfortable enough to tell the truth and go into a panic attack, potentially fucking cry, and like how we're going to be there with them the whole fucking time as they're telling this truth about themselves and amplify that shit everywhere. So he came in and laid out the plan for it. And I was like, dude, this is incredible. And that is just an example of also, I feel like the accountability piece where I had to recognize I've always known I'm not the guy, you know what I mean? Like I know the vision, I know the message we're trying to give, but to get to that point, that part of the leadership, the roadmap piece, I really struggle with. So, and that's something that I'm really grateful that we have so many people that are able to come in here and help out with that. So now we have Tanner. Glad you joined in, baby. Love it. So Tanner, you actually made some comments here, and I told everybody how you taught me about the left and the right and what that actually means, because I struggled with understanding what that actually was, and you broke it down for me so beautifully in the airport, and I told that story. So I would love to hear your definition of leadership. If you give yourself a quick intro to everybody, so they get to know you for 30 seconds, and then jump into your definition, and we can continue this conversation.
So Tanner, 88 Mike, 8 years Army. Yeah, man. When I think of leadership, I was listening the whole entire time too, because especially leadership is such a hot topic for me. Leadership, going from having the worst of leadership to having, becoming one of the best. I truly stand on like that. I loved being a leader. I fast tracked as fast as I possibly could to make my E5, because I was like, I do not want to be in a position too long where people determine on whether or not something gets done. It could be the worst of ways. They wanted it done, and they didn't want to hear what you had to say. They just want you to move. Yeah, I think I told you last time too, dude, when I think of leadership, the way I define it in my head is, I seen that picture where it showed this guy and he's standing on top of this large brick. It's a huge brick, and he's got 6 people pulling the damn thing, and he's behind him telling him, you need to pull it. And then it shows the same picture, but instead he's on the ground standing there telling him, he's not on it no more. He's on the ground, and he's like telling him, you still got to move it, and they're still pulling it. And then there's the third picture. It's him in the very front of it, and then they're behind him, and he's pulling it, and they're helping him pull it. Right.
Yep.
And so my take on leadership, and what I always used to tell people is you don't work for me, you work with me. And whether or not you want to put that effort in to work with me, that's on you. But everything else, that your career is like defined by like how much work you put in. I still have a job to do, and I'm going to get my job done. But if you're going to help me do it, then obviously you're going to reap the benefits of it as well. I mean, it could be something as simple as, you help me with this task and we all get it done. And now at 1,500, yeah, just like that. That's just a picture like that. That is a leader right there, dude. And if you help me complete the task, instead of us getting out of here at 1,700, now we're out of here at 1,500. Something as simple as that. But I mean, it's you know what I mean? It's working together is what it really is. And I'm never out on the line yelling at people, like pointing fingers, like, you gotta go out here and do this, and then I go back upstairs. Well, you guys complete it. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
a horseshit way of leading people.
So it's, what I'm actually noticing between all of us, what we're talking about is create a leader. Not only do they set the vision, the roadmap, but create an environment of teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creating
like
an
that.
environment of teamwork. Yeah. I mean, you have to have a team. There's nothing worse too when you're in the military and you got a leader who doesn't really value his people. He just looks at
Military,
them.
business, anything.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, in any form. Only because there's, we're talking about military stuff right now. Though I use that example is, if you have a squad leader who just views his individuals like his soldiers underneath him, the only time he really gives a shit about them is when he goes and shows up to work, and he's just got to make sure they do what they do, and then after that he checks out, he goes back home, and he doesn't care anything else about them. But then you have the leader who shows up in the morning and knows every single person in his formation, knows all their situations, knows exactly what they got going on, genuinely gives a shit about what they got going on.
Right.
Will do things like, I know this guy's got a tough time going on in his household, and he like absolutely could use a break with this week. So like, let me have him there for the first like hour and a half of formation, go check in at work. But then like, dude, I'll go up to the platoon sergeant's office and be like, yeah, dude, he had an appointment. They're like, oh, you didn't give us his appointment slip a week ago. I'd be like, that's my bad. He gave it to me. I just forgot to give it to you guys. And then like, you know what I mean? Take the hit for them so they can better themselves. And like, I did that shit numerous times, dude. It was too easy. I'm in the position where I can afford that. I can put, be the front face of it all and be like, he needs to take that time. It's too easy for me to be up there and go to bat for him to better himself.
Yeah.
Team accountability is what you're looking for. Yeah.
Right.
So everybody's responsible for everybody in the team. It's like shared consequences and like collective responsibility instead of like singular, So everybody in the team, when you're in a unit, you guys are supposed to move as one. So I get what you're saying, Tanner, man.
Hell yeah, dude.
It's like a shield or an umbrella, right? Like shit rolls downhill. Like I'm gonna put this fucking shield up and prevent everyone getting covered in shit. Right. That's probably like a very crude way of kind of explaining like how I'm understanding what you're saying. Like, this dude's got shit going on. Like it's not affecting us operationally in whatever capacity. Go do what you got to do. Make sure you're right, because if you're right, you can actually do your job, and then we all succeed.
That's right, Jeff. Always lead by example.
Yeah, yep. Always lead by example. I agree with that. I think that's critical, right? Like if you want to have a standard, the leader, it's up to them to set that standard.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and I think that goes back to what, I don't know, Joe or Ray said it. It was Ray, and I feel like I know where that comes from in your story, because you shared a part of your story with me that was pretty. I actually shared it with the whole audience eventually too. But you don't ask someone to do something that you yourself wouldn't do, right? And I think that is critical. I also see that being incredibly challenging for every leader in the military, at officer level or even below, to achieve that. I think it's really difficult. So when you, let me give an example, and then I would love to hear your feedback on it. So like, if I'm asking you to go storm a building, and I'm sitting in my office and telling you to go storm a building, go take something, and I've never done that before, but you have to do it, and I tell you to do it, how would you receive it? And don't, it's not me, but like just a leader, what type of leader would you take that high risk for? And what type of leader would you not take that high risk for happily, really, or willingly? Like, because I feel like not every officer, for example, since we're going to stay in the military realm, like not every officer is going to be, on the battlefield. How would you, yeah. Go ahead.
But eventually, once an officer gets promoted to the point where they're no longer in the field, they spent years being in the field.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're not going to be on the field with a general. You're not going to be on the field with a lieutenant colonel. Sometimes maybe, right? But they're not there to support a platoon or company level anything, right? That's what a captain or a lieutenant's for. So like, it's like back to what I was saying, right? So like my experience in Afghanistan, right? So my platoon commander was a captain, but prior to that, he was an enlisted Marine. That dude, I would follow him through fucking the gates of hell, no questions asked. If he said that's what we needed to do, absolutely. My lieutenant colonel, the battalion commander, I might, I'm not going to jump in front of a bullet for him. I'll just put it that way. You know what I mean? Like, I'll hear what he has to say, and then I'm going to look to that captain and be like, "Yo, what are we doing?" Because I don't care what he has to say. What are you doing? Because wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, I'm with you. I don't know if that really makes sense, but
it does.
It's the same thing like in a corporate level. Like the corporation that I was working for. Basically anything outside of like my department, if it didn't come from my department head, I don't care. I'll listen to what you have to say, but until that man tells me what I got to do, cool.
Right.
you know, but he was the true leader. His name was Mark. You know, he would shield us from all the bullshit, right? If there was some stupid shit that came down the pike of like, hey, you know, corporate wants everyone to be in the office. It's like, dude, I got 75 active projects right now, and they're all over the fucking city. Like, I can't spend 8 hours this week in an office. Like, sorry, no. And he would communicate that, you know. But anybody outside of our department, it was just like, no, that's what I said, and you're gonna do it because I'm the boss. And you know, I'm fortunate that I didn't have to participate in that level of the company. Yeah, there was times where, you know, you're not going to get out of it, but it's the same thing, Tanner. Like, you know, there were certain things you couldn't get your guys out of.
Yep.
You know, you pick your battles, you know, and then you win the war.
Shouts out Mark. Sounds like a real one.
Yeah, fucking great dude.
Yeah, it does sound like a good guy. I actually have two things I'm going to read out. So Sydney said, mutual respect, soldier. Mutual respect. Soldiers can easily tell when leaders don't care or don't respect them, and they would literally rather stay at work longer than contribute to that leader's success. Or a team where they don't feel valued and respected. Absolutely, that makes a ton of sense. And then Jeff says, higher ups are book smart supposedly, but when they tell you to buddy rush across a field in a firefight, because it says to in the books, we stopped that when we saw how slow it was in the moment. Medal of Honor, run to the closest micro terrain or tree line. So protect yourself and, you know, live to fight another day is what I'm hearing Jeff say. And if it makes sense in the moment, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. And I think that's up to the guy that, like Ray, the example you just gave is top line says, do this. Then you go to the captain and say, hey man, what are we really doing? Right? Like what is actually making sense here when you with what you're looking at? I'm going to follow you. And it just goes into that trust factor that even Sydney just laid out. I think all of that is really crucial and understanding the different, I guess, the complexities of leadership overall and getting buy-in from your guys and getting buy-in from the people around you. It comes down to that trust factor and the communication factor of such, and how you showing genuinely that you care. That's another thing I hear a streamline throughout this whole thing is showing people that you give a shit and that you actually really care about them. And whether that is, you have to caring about someone isn't always letting them do whatever the fuck they want either. It's sometimes being like, yo, man, like, I know why you did that thing. Don't do that shit again. But why did you do that? Right. Like having that conversation with dudes, you know what I mean? Having that conversation with people and in a way that doesn't shit on them entirely. Cause humans are humans, you know, we all make fucking mistakes and we all go through shit. And I don't know. That's kind of what I'm getting out of all of this. Does that sound about right?
So I wanted to jump back in that.
Yeah, hit it.
You know, I think another important thing is like you consult with your subordinates, right? So like going back to that like ladder, right? You got the general at the top. He's saying, hey, this is what you need to do. I'm looking to the captain saying, hey, sir, what are we going to do? But if here this guy's telling this guy, hey, this doesn't work. Like, no. He's like, no, you're going to do it my way. Like, that's not good. And you can look at that in any kind of structure, whether that's like a big organization, you know, filtered out through a bunch of different departments and then subsequently through a bunch of different teams. Like, if the person in charge is not consulting and within reason, right? Like, it's not like full blown democracy, but like, if this is the most common sense approach that everyone's coming up with, or somebody has an outside the box way of solving a fucking unique problem, I'll listen to it. I'll hear it. I'm not going to immediately shut it down and say, no, we're doing it my way.
Yeah.
That was a prior comment that I had made. It's somewhere in there, but I was saying the exact same thing you're saying, Ray. Like, it should never be a point where, as a leader, they should always just be against taking. Like, if I'm a platoon sergeant, there should be no way that I shouldn't. If there's a whole squad of guys that are like, hey, sergeant, we've done this mission, we've ran this mission back, you know, the last year, and it's worked this way. And we've been out there to this field site and we know that the trucks can't make it this way. You're saying that you want us to, but you guys are telling us to do it that way. We're just trying to tell you it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And
then spend the whole day digging out a truck.
Right, exactly. And the platoon sergeant's like, no, like, this is the way we're gonna do it, and they don't want to hear it, dude. And that right there is just like it's a problem, dude. And I've had that happen too, dude. And that was one thing as a soldier when I was like a PFC, I think either PFC or specialist. And that was kind of like an example that we should do line haul operations, going to different states, transporting Humvees and stuff for JRTC and a couple other things. And yeah, there was like the route, and they wanted us to take this one route, and we're like, I was telling them like, yo, I've done this mission now at least 12 times. Like, I know that this is not going to work. And they're like, no, like, this is the way we're going to do it. And it was just because it was a, staff sergeant, and he didn't want to listen to what I had to say. He had only been, I think, on that same mission twice. And I was just like, all right, dude, like, I'm trying to tell you, like, it's not going to work. And I'm sitting here as a PFC and just like trying to plead my case. Like, dude, you're going to fuck this whole thing up. They ran the mission. He didn't want to listen. We got out there, dude. Whole convoy stuck. Got to figure out a new route. It's not as serious, but it's a prime example of like a stubborn leader who just doesn't, because of pride, dude. Of pride, you hold the rank. Who gives a shit what this, young enlisted soldier has to say? What could he possibly know? And when that happened to me, dude, I became a sergeant. I was like, I'm gonna take even if I don't end up accepting it, I'm at least going to take the opportunity to listen to what they have to say, consult with my other leaders to see if it does make sense, and then go and make a judgment call after that. So I also give the, E5s that were underneath me an opportunity to also go and talk about it with them, Well, it didn't just end with me. There was other people too.
Yeah, that's and Sydney made a really good point. She said, and sometimes there is great value in allowing that leader to fail and learn. And I think that is actually really an important key to also lay out there, because there
you
is
look like
the
a
chance.
dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to rebuild that trust with the guys. Or if you go to them, it's a quick way to build the trust, I guess, is saying, hey guys, listen, I fucked up. You were right. And I'm going to take that into consideration. If they can humble themselves at that point too, I think that the individuals underneath of them, which is what I'm going to now get into, the individuals underneath of them can be like, all right, sick. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Let's work better as a team now. Now, the question that I have is, outside of the leadership realm, how should the subordinate in this example be? Should the subordinate always feel victimized by not being heard? And how should they react to things as well? Like, what do you think is an appropriate reaction to not always feel victimized and to have even some accountability for themselves? Like, I think that's another important piece on the flip side. Like, how can you be a better communicator of what you need and what you think the mission needs, or whatever it might be needs?
I think that you have to follow, so if you're given an instruction and you are, communicating that back to your leader, like clearly how it was stated to you, then you understand it and then you'll be able to follow it. But I think like being victimized, I'm not sure what you're talking about with that. So if you could like clarify that, because
Sure.
yeah.
Tanner, do you know what I mean when I say that?
No, I was a little thrown off too. I just a little bit.
How about you, Ray?
Truth be told, I wasn't really paying attention because
You're
I
good.
got kicked out of the spot that I was in.
You're good. So what I mean by that is, let's say I do everything that I need to do, and the leader, one, doesn't give the accolades needed, two, doesn't, or something happens bad and the leader comes at you and they come down on you or whatever, and they blame you or whatever it might be. Like, how do you think pride is involved with that? Because pride is victimhood, honestly, at the end of the day. Like, if you end up having all the pride in the world for what you're doing, how should the subordinate, to protect themselves in their own minds, how do you think they should be reacting? Or did they really do everything in the communication back to leader? Hey, I don't think we should do this. I'll do it, but I don't think I should do it. Are you just going to constantly be like, oh, fuck that guy? I mean, like, how do you think the subordinates have to respond, or what do you think is a good pathway to response in a negative situation?
Well, see, I don't think they have to respond at all. I think they can just self-reflect and see like, okay, well, he told me to do this. This is the way that I did it. Either he's a shitty leader or he told me to do it wrong. Or, I mean, they're going to come up with 1,000 different reasons as to why, it wasn't done correctly or, or wasn't performed properly or something like that. But I think if you are that victim or you're the person that's not a leader yet, that's trying to become a leader and you're trying to do everything in your power to make that happen, I think that as long as you're following and doing what the person above you is telling you to do, to a T, and even if you do mess up, admitting to your own mistakes, you're admitting to yourself that you made that mistake and then you were man enough to own up to that mistake. So I think it's all about personal growth when it comes down to that. Like, if you're not confident enough in yourself as a human being, you're not going to be a good leader anyway. So until you can make that happen for yourself and know like, okay, I fucked this up this time, but next time if I get the opportunity, I won't mess this up. And then I won't care what he says, because I'll know in my head that I messed this up last time, but when I got a second opportunity, I was able to make it happen. And in my mind, that's justifying enough, bringing me forward in my own mind to make me feel like I actually did something, I accomplished something. So I'm a better person for doing that. I'm not unethical or dishonest with myself about like, what I did in the past, and I was consistent and I overcame and I held myself accountable, so doing those things for yourself, I think is what that's what you're talking about is
exactly it.
You being able to overcome your own insecurities and things, whether someone's talking down
Very
to you
important.
or not. So I think setting goals, personal goals for yourself, is probably the most responsible thing that you can do if you want to become that leader or take that next step and be able to lead, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Love that. Yeah. Self accountability. Definitely. I'm going to read this, and Tanner, I saw you nodding your head to that too. I want to hear from you on that. So Sydney said, she said, nope. The team thrives when all pride is put aside on both sides and rebuilding takes place. Those are learning experiences for everyone involved and a huge chance to reinstate trust. I think if, as subordinates, we are taking personal offense, then we need to do our own gut check, because that runs deeper than that interaction or single situation, which goes right back to what you were saying, Joe, of your own. It's showing who you are, right? It's showing how you react to things and how you are taking offense to so much. And it's an opportunity for you to grow if you look at it that way.
Right.
I love that. Anyway, Tanner, you were nodding your head.
Yeah, what he said, and that's all I got. Now I was playing. Now, dude, one of the biggest words though, and James, I talked to you about this recently, was the word accountability, dude.
Hell yeah.
I think when it all comes down to it, and I was thinking about it like in my head, trying to make sense of it all, of like because you're saying like subordinate, and I was thinking about like me as a leader, and then the people underneath me, and then even then I'm just somebody who's underneath somebody else, and so I was thinking about like. Accountability, dude. And I told you this, like I was saying a couple seconds ago, though. Accountability is something like I live with now more than ever. It kind of like my whole life is based off of it now, and I'm always willing to take accountability for something before I even make the action. So I'm like, okay, am I ready to take accountability for this? And it's like, yes, I am. Then I do it, instead of being like a normal. I did something and now I have to face the consequences after the fact, right? And so there's so many leaders though that I feel like that were afraid to be accountable. They were afraid to take the risk because they didn't want to answer to it. They didn't want to, answer to anything they did. And so what would they do? Whether that be task it off to somebody else, and then they have to take accountability for it. But there was too many fucking leaders, dude, that I've seen that were more worried about their NCOERs or their OIRs or whatever it is, OERs. And that's a fucking problem, because it's like at that point you're more worried about the outcome of like the greater things of like you're worried about the accountability portion of it all. I guess that's what I'm getting at. You're too worried about that. Yeah, dude, and that word accountability though, it's kind of its own topic though.
Big time. It really is, but I think not only is it its own topic, but I think it's very applicable to this situation as well. I mean, the bravery that comes, genuinely, like a type of bravery that comes with being able to say, hey, I fucked up, like this is on me. and I'm going to take the blame for all of it. There is a power in that, as well, like a self power in that. That if you are able to withstand the consequences of it, then you are proving to yourself beyond a shadow of a doubt you are either growing as a person, and also, I shouldn't say or, and also you are able to take on more responsibility after that to protect your people that you are trying to serve.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, leadership, in my view, is I am here to serve you. I'm trying to help you. So
Yeah, I think
yeah, I love that.
a lot of that stems from people not being ready to lead, because if
Right.
you're not confident enough in yourself, how can you lead anybody? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I think you have to get past that first. Um, a quick example is like when you put someone on guard or something like that, and it's in the middle of the night. Do they have the willpower to stay up all night, until their shift is over? And I think that people that can't accomplish that like task aren't ready to be leaders because they're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about how tired they are. They're not thinking about everybody else that they're protecting while they're in the guard tower. You know what I mean? So, like, I think that, you know, once you start putting other people first and you're not as focused on yourself anymore, I think that's like the foundation for a good leader.
Yep. And also, we're just gonna say goodbye to Ray real quick. He's
See you later,
peacing out.
Ray.
So see you, baby. Um, he's got to run the class. So I I agree that there is, and it goes back to. It's amazing how we're really breaking it down here, because it does go back to the confidence piece as well. Like, are you confident in yourself? Are you confident to be able to deliver the messages and lead the guys in the appropriate direction, and or the people in general that you're serving? Like, there is a sense of major uh confidence that comes with all of that. It really is. Like, it just comes
Mhm.
down to that. So I find that to be very interesting, and how you build up that self confidence. I think a really easy pathway to do that. Well, not easy, but because it's very hard for a lot of people. But once you start doing it, it becomes a good habit. Is accountability. Accountability is a huge piece of all of that, right? Like, you have to be accountable to yourself and your actions. You got to think, like Tanner said, like, am I going to be willing to be accountable to the outcomes that could possibly happen from this action that I take? If the
Mhm.
answer is yes, I'm going to do it. If not, then I can't. And I feel like that even goes into the hardest of things. Like, if you're asking someone to put their life on the line for you, it's like, look, this is a part of the job, but is this am I giving the people that are around me the opportunity to survive? Am I giving them the best option to survive this very difficult thing that we're doing? And can I lead them through this? And will some of them be gone? I mean, some guys have to think like, I'm going to lose some people on this mission. Am I willing to take on the accountability for that? One, I don't want to lose anyone, of course, but this mission requires such high caliber or such high risk that it's there. And are you going to be communicating that to them as well? And in that scenario, and I feel like that's also a part of the leadership piece, is telling the hard truths, right? So that's a part of the accountability. Like, am I able to deliver these hard truths? Will I be able to talk to the wife, to the mom, to the dad, to the kids, like, about all of this and why these decisions were made? So, or at least a high level as to why. And I know I made it very dramatic by putting that, but it's very applicable to the military mindset. And I think it's crucial. I really do. Like, the confidence to be able to do all of that and to lead people into the hardest times of their lives, no matter what it is. And actually, in a corporate sense, there's so many cool examples of. I actually love this. I forget the guy's name, but I know the story. So I'm gonna tell the story, and I forget the name of the company, but he was leading the company, and they came on to hard times. There was there was a recession happening, and the businesses were shutting down, but he told everyone, hey, I'm going to cut my pay significantly, so that I can put more money into the account, and I'm going to ask if everyone else can take at least a 10 or 15% cut. I'm going to take I think he took like a 40 or a 50% cut to his own personal salary, and then everyone else he has to cut like 10 or 15%, so that they could continue to operate and they wouldn't have to fire anyone. Everyone in the company said, absolutely, we'll take the pay cut so we have something rather than nothing. But also, he recognized the team started to operate better and they listened to him more, and they gave him better feedback, and they survived and then thrived afterwards. They grew their company by like, I think it was like 50 or 150% year over year for a couple of years after that. Like, it was something insane. And they grew through that tough time. And I love that. I love hearing about how, people, true leaders, can step up and end up, putting themselves last to make sure everyone else can live and survive and thrive. I love stories like that. And that's a very hard thing to do, right? Like, that was a difficult decision, but he had to do it. And he wanted to make sure he took care of the people that got him to where he was, right? That's the confidence piece. That's the accountability piece, the self-awareness piece, like all of that. And that makes up what I believe to be a good leader, and it could be for a marriage, it could be for a company, it could be in the military, no matter what. It could be for your kids, like all of it. So,
Yeah.
I think stories and things like that, and of that bravery, and that's why I'm trying to bring it back to that. The bravery to be accountable to your actions is so crucial in leadership. Um, so I don't know. That's what I just got from all of that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think confidence matters too, and it like builds morale, and it like promotes initiative for other people to follow follow you. I mean, innately. I think like a more confident person, you're like, damn, I want to be like that guy,
Right.
or damn, I want to help him, or I look up to him, or however it is, or whatever it is. I think that like stronger relationships with your people, just like you were saying, is like the guy was willing to take a 50% pay cut, and he didn't make the other people do it. He found out a way that they could only take a 10 or 15% pay cut.
Yep.
But I think that like that developed confidence with all of his employees, like, okay, this guy's actually trying. He took a 50% where we only have to take a 10, so we're going to work harder, we're going to work better as a team. We're going to conquer these challenges, and be more proactive, and we feel empowered now by like everything that our leader did. So now let's take that and learn from it, and let's fix ourselves, so that way we can be better and put ourselves in a better place, so that way in the end we can all reach the same goal, which is cash, obviously. But
Well, to survive and thrive, right?
right,
Like,
right,
so
right. No,
we
yeah, I
can,
get, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I mean. But yeah, so I think that's kind of exactly what you said. But yeah, I agree.
yeah,
No, one of the things you said there was like innately like leading people by being like a role model, I guess, or in some
Right,
form or fashion,
yeah,
being like
definitely.
somebody people look up to is like
right.
a good point.
Yeah.
Because like I remember like points too, seeing other leaders, something as simple as like, okay, the platoon sergeant's office, so he's got other leaders in there, and he's got like this really important piece of information that's the soldiers. It's like the soldier has to go do the surgery or something like that, and NCO standing right outside the door. And he's like, I need that sign. He's like, well, they're in there having a meeting. It's like, well, fucking walk in there, guy. Like,
Right,
like it's they're humans in there. They're not, you're gonna be okay. And then
right.
he's just like scared to walk in there. He just grabbed, another leader walks up, grabs it for him, same rank, walks right in there. Door shuts. Everybody's like, oh shit, he walked in there.
Mm,
What the fuck happened to him? And like he comes out with
right,
the paper signed, dude. He
right,
comes out. He's just like, I just walked in. They told me it needed to be signed. He's like, here's your paper. Go off. And the
right.
guy leaves. But it's just something that everybody looks at that guy like, holy shit. It took
That's
some guts to walk in there,
Mhm.
even though they told nobody to walk in there. But what came of it? He got the job done. He got a sign for this guy. The guy now looks at the NCO as confident. He looks at him as somebody he can trust. He looks at him, and so many more other things. He just at that one instance or incident right there, like that action, it made that leader just stand out a little bit more amongst the other ones because they, you know,
yeah.
um,
Yeah,
That
that's exactly what I was
action.
saying. That's
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly what I was saying. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, dude.
yeah.
And another thing too is like that same, and this is from all experiences too, dude. That one I was telling but another one would be like the platoon sergeant's office, and like I was in a motor T world, so like we had like the main upstairs office, where all these NCOs, and they used to keep like all E4 and below, you guys stay out of here, and only NCOs. Okay, well then I'd go up there and do what I have to do, and then after that I'm back on. All my soldiers are either chilling in the hallway or they're outside on the line. That's where I'm at. I'm where
right,
they're
right.
I'm where that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah, you don't want
different.
to separate yourself from the soldiers, because they're going to be looking for you. You know what I mean? Like, where the hell is this guy? What is he doing?
It's
I
cold
don't.
outside. I'm out here on the line, and he's upstairs in the office. Like,
Right,
fuck
exactly.
that,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
I'm not
Like,
doing
I'm
that.
sleeping outside in negative 30-degree weather, and this guy's inside, you know, baking popcorn or something, doing something crazy in there and watching a movie while I'm out here sucking. So, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people like that in my unit, or a lot of leadership like that. They weren't willing. Well, I mean, I guess they've done it before because they had the training for it or whatever, but they weren't willing to go through it again with their soldiers or with whomever, so that a way, they
Mm.
can get you through it. Like me, for example, I wouldn't be like that. I would want to go through it every single time with every single person. I would give every single person that was on my team a chance, to want to succeed, to want to look up to me and be like, damn, this dude's doing it again. Like if you had to go into the gas chamber every time with your guys or something, like I would go in, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I wouldn't make them do something that I wasn't willing to do. And this is getting back on stuff that we had already talked about. But
Sure, sure, sure.
I mean, I just think that like some people have it and some people don't. And, I think that we're tested every day by people that are in those positions. And I think that how you react to those people in those positions, pretty well explains your character, and who you are as a person, because, you know, I, I'm in a position right now at my current job, and I'm not going to talk a lot about this because I don't want them to see this, but, like, leadership just isn't really leadership, and I'm just, just floating in the background, so I mean, it's just about how you handle it as a person and how you grow from it, and actually how you plan to, how you plan to move from it. Like, you can sit here and think about it every single day, or you can try to do something yourself that you can control to make it better. You know what I mean? So that's where I think a lot of self-reflection comes into play.
Something interesting that you said, both of you said, was you'd be out in the field, going through the suck with the guys. Um, and, what's interesting about that is, even if that leader did it one time with you, just one time, it's like, all right, this guy's a real deal. Like, he would do this. He showed us he has done this and would do this with us. If he's not out here and he's inside the office, there's a good reason. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're still willing to follow that person because they did it with you. They showed you that they care. They showed you that they're trying to build that trust with you. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I mean, even that's why the story of Gunny and Martin Gunny Barreras, for those of you who don't know, who might be listening in on this, we consider him to be our like spirit leader of this organization. He was Dan's leader over in Afghanistan. And he would literally, so he was a command sergeant major, and they called him Gunny because he was a Marine for 6 years and then went into the Army. He was 75th Ranger Bat, and he would go out on almost every single patrol. Every patrol, guys are going beyond the wire. He was on. The lore goes like 85% of them. He was out there. Like, he was at least on one or two with every single unit. He was in the thick of the fight. He was in the fights with the guys, leading literally from the front, and willing to put his life on the line just to show these guys that he was there for them, and they would die for him. Anything he said, they were willing to die for him at that point, right? And because he was showing, I am willing to be in the fight with you, on the front line. I think that is critical to leadership, is to show people, I do care. I have been doing this. I'm in this. I am here to support you and help you. And I really want to see us all succeed. And in the case of the military, I want to see you all get out alive. Um, that is a powerful showing to genuinely step in and be a part of the boots on ground efforts, if you will. That is important, not just the paperwork, not just sitting behind the desk, even though that is also, by the way, incredibly important, very,
Right.
very important, because logistics wins wars. But if you want your guys to win that war for you on paper, you have to be out there physically in person as well. So that is a powerful testament to leadership. I love that, and I love those examples that you guys gave. It makes a lot of sense, actually, to me. Wow, cool. So, what do you think the summary is of today's leadership? It's vision, roadmap, and being out in front with the guys, and all to build trust with them. What else you got?
Let me get my mic back on here. I didn't want to interrupt you. You were going off, but yeah. So I think like just a quick summary is like self-belief. I think that's number one, right? Because you need to believe in yourself before you can achieve anything. You know what I mean? If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to do much, right? So then like clear decision making would be something that you would need as a leader. Along with that is like effective communication. You have to inspire trust with your people. You have to do all of these things to perform well, to have the entire unit perform well, the team, whatever you're on. You need to have like a good balance of everything. It's like consistency, dependability. They need to be able to depend on you. You as the leader need to encourage growth. So there's a lot of things that come into play, like we've been saying. And I don't want to end it with this, but some people just don't have that trait. And if you are one of those people, I'm not talking down to, and you probably don't know that this is you, but I think that, there are like natural leaders, and then there are other people that are put into those positions and are tested and ultimately fail because they're not ready to be a leader yet. And so I'm not saying that just because you're not ready now doesn't mean that you can't become one, because you can. Anybody can, but you just have to put in the time and effort and want to be able to be a leader, and lead well if you're going to be a good leader. So that's what my summary is of it.
Yeah, I do think some people are naturally born to be leaders. I do believe in that too. But go ahead, Tanner, what you got?
No, dude, you killed it. I mean, they I don't know. It was a good conversation, man. Joe killed it though. That was a good way of ending it, dude. I don't really have anything to add on top of that, other than saying that leadership is you have good leaders and you have bad leaders, and you can definitely tell the difference when you have a good one, dude.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
You can absolutely feel the difference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It is definitely noticeable, and the whole team reflects the value systems and the morals and the actions of the person at the front. I really do believe that 100%. I think that really was a good summary, Joe. So thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today in our conversation on leadership. And today was a little bit different. We didn't get into like personal stories today, but I think it was a good episode nonetheless of just providing some kind of thoughts. And if you have anything that you think too, I mean, please provide a comment, talk to us about it, message us. And as always, at Project Refit, we're here as an organization, a nonprofit that does benefit from all of your donations, all of your support, or leads on grants. If you guys know of a grant coming up, send it to us. If you want us in your community, you want to lead in your community, contact us. We want to provide you that opportunity to do so. And if you need some additional support, or you know somebody that needs additional support, we have retreats that we go on that are incredibly powerful. We're going on one next week to Montana. Really excited about that. Tanner's going to be there. Myself, Dan, Tucker, and a few other guys are going to be there. And we're stoked about it. We love doing this. We love helping you out. We love showing that accountability can be a really good and powerful healing tool as well. And allowing people to just tell the truth about themselves in an environment where they're not going to be judged. And, we are a place where warriors can come and mourn and not be, victim or shamed for doing such. So that's what it's all about, baby. And we really appreciate you guys. And like I said, any kind of support, any kind of help you guys want to give us, please let us know. If you want to join in, be a volunteer. We have tons of opportunities for that as well on the back end, as well as on the front. And yeah, that's it. So thank you everyone for joining in, and look forward to next week. And well, actually next week we're going to be on the retreat. So no episode next week probably, but unless we have somebody who wants to step up and do one. Shit, Joe, if you want to do it, you could be the host next week if you'd like.
Or we end up doing a podcast out there.
We could. Yeah, we could.
Dude.
We'll go live.
Yeah, we could. We are doing a podcast actually on Monday with someone else. We're actually going to be interviewed out there too on Monday, which is pretty cool. So we're heading out on Sunday. A small group of us of Refit guys are going out on Sunday, and we're getting interviewed on Monday. Tuesday, we're probably going to work on the ranch just ourselves, and then Wednesday the retreat begins. So, but yeah, that's it. Thank you everybody. Appreciate you all, and we'll talk to you.